Welcome to Taking the Bar, the show where real-life lawyers and lawmakers have a drink, tell some stories, and give you a little glimpse into their lives. My name is Matthew Mobilio. I'll be your host today. I'm an attorney at Mobilio Wood. I'm here with our guest today, Mark Pinsley. Mark is a husband and father of two. He's also the comptroller for Lehigh County. He's a former South Wales Township Commissioner and is currently running for state senate against Senator Patrick Brown for the 16th District. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for coming. We today are at Bell Hall, so we're taking over Bell Hall in Allentown. This is Jeremiah, who'll be our bartender, but also is the owner of Bell Hall here in Allentown. And he's poured us a couple beers. Jeremiah, what are we drinking today?
We're doing the Bell Schnickel. That's from the Rising Rivers Brewery. Fresh out of Lord McCungy. Brand new brewery. It's a winter ale. We've got some ginger, cinnamon, and honey in there. So I think you guys are really like it.
Fantastic.
I like it.
All right, let's give it a try.
Enjoy.
Cheers. All right, thank you. That's good. Very nice. All right, you ready for some questions?
I am.
Okay. Being a politician takes a thick skin.
Yeah.
People say things aren't true. People say things that are hurtful. For the most part, you have to take it all with a grain of salt. But is there anything that you could think of specifically that that someone said about you or to you, and you thought, wow, that just hurts? Like, not necessarily that you just wrote it off as political, partisan politics, but like that really hurt me.
Yeah, there's probably plenty of things, to be honest. So one of the things that I learned in politics that I never knew before is that like 50% of the people will like you for absolutely no reason. They don't know you. 50% of the people will hate you for no reason, and they don't know you either. So you have these sort of two camps. I like to be in the camp with people who like me for no reason.
I think we all do.
Right? The people that don't like you, they're a lot of times now they're vicious, right? And so they go after you personally. Or they go after your family personally. And when they start attacking things like that really bothers me. Like, if they say something about my kids or my wife or whatever, like I'm just like, why go there? Or my religion, why go there? Like, those are the kind of things that bother me. I don't let it get to me, but it doesn't mean that I don't go home and, have a drink, maybe punch a punching bag and then move on.
Sure. I mean, has there been anything that's so egregious that you thought to yourself, I'm tired of being in the spotlight. I'm tired of being in politics. I just don't want to do this anymore.
No, not yet. Although my wife has said that many times.
Well, that's a good segue to. I assume your family's very supportive of your pursuits.
They are, yeah. But like Nina, my wife, she hates politics. She just absolutely hates politics. Like from a variety of perspectives. One, she doesn't necessarily feel that our politicians are working for us all the time, which I think is easy to say, right? Like they're working for somebody. It may not be for you or for me specifically. But then also, like, people just make shit up, right? They just make stuff up about you that is just false. And that's what really bothers her more than anything else. And like, should you say something back? Should you not say something back? And all this debate that has to go into these things. She's like, why bother? Like, let's just move on. I'm with her on that.
Did you ever approach your wife and say, hey, I want to say this in the press, or I want to say this, and have her say, oh my God, Mark, please don't say that, or please don't do it?
Yeah.
Anything that you could share with us now that your wife has vetoed?
I don't know if there's anything specific that I could say that she's vetoed, because it might put me in a hot water. But what I would say is like, she is a calming force, right? And so a lot of times, so like I've been recently attacked by a bunch of Democrats here in the Valley. And it's very difficult not to hit back, especially when they specifically lied about something I said. And they mischaracterized it. They have done everything they can to make it look like I said something I didn't. And like, your first inclination is like, okay, I'm going to get these guys, right? And then you talk to your wife and she's like, all right, like, is this really what you're after? And I'm like, no, right? Like, that's not my message. Like, all of that is a distraction to what I want to get done. And she's able to calm that down and like help me like set my arrow straight again.
It's good.
Yeah.
They say happy wife, happy life. So
absolutely, I've been very fortunate. I have a great marriage, and she's been very supportive.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that again takes me to my next question. You're a great guest, by the way. You're segueing me into every next question. It's almost as if you had these in advance and you knew what the next question is going to be. So you mentioned about being attacked by local Democrats, which you're a Democrat. You've obviously faced criticism from Republicans, and now you're
kind of facing attacks from people of your own party.
Yeah.
Is it a different feeling? Does it feel differently when it's people that you share an ideological kind of framework with when they're coming after you versus someone who you disagree on almost everything anyway?
Definitely. Yeah, so, like, it's funny, like, I think that I can agree or disagree with Democrats and we can have sort of a fight and it's okay, right? And then there's the point where it goes beyond being okay, like to where I feel that they're lying. And when you feel that they're lying, I am really worried about democracy. Like, I can't say that enough. Like, I think that we could lose democracy. And if we're fighting with each other over like a word, or we're fighting with each other over some smallness, we don't have our eye on the ball. And the eye on the ball right now is save democracy. And there's a lot of things that are focusing on save democracy, like voting rights. This is like a huge issue. And so why are we fighting for anything other than voting rights right now? I don't care about the Build Back Better bill. I don't care about the infrastructure bill. I don't care about all those stuff as it relates to voting, right? Like, do I want those things to pass? Absolutely. Do I want voting to pass first? Yes. Do I want to make sure that like people can't go in, that representatives can't go into the halls of Congress and just object to the certification of a president in order to get someone else in? Yes, absolutely. I think those things are worth fighting for. So when I have Democrats fighting me, then it's like you're in the muck. When you have Republicans fighting you, actually you feel like you're in a battle, right? Like you're trying to get to the other side. When you have when Democrats are fighting you, it's very difficult, very difficult. That's a long answer.
No, that's we have a lot of time to fill, so please feel free. Kind of staying on that topic, do you get the sense that when you're being attacked by your own party, it's more of a there are ulterior motives as opposed to, when you're arguing with a Republican about, an issue, whether it's, abortion or gay marriage or whatever that might be, you have an actual ideological difference and you can see why you're having this dispute.
Yeah.
But when it's coming from your own party, do you get the feeling that there's something happening behind the scenes that's causing this, and it's not just that you guys are disagreeing about a particular word that you chose?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in some cases, it's really that they don't want me to be successful so that they can be successful. We may have a future run against each other, and whatever. Like obviously you're trying to. What's the show? Like where they're trying to kick them off the island, right? Like we're creating little communities, and each one is trying to kick the other one off the island. That's the way it feels, like to me. And I think the problem is that the public really doesn't know what's going on, all this baloney that's going on behind the scenes, and like, so we have to educate them on that too, because, what's happening, in my view, what's happening is like, what Trump has done for the Republican Party is he has moved them forward. Now, you can argue about whether that forward is a good forward or not, right? I obviously think it's terrible. I think he's moved them more towards white supremacy, but he moved them forward. The Democrats, they don't want to move forward, right? They're sort of stuck in the old way of doing things. And so one of the struggles is I'm trying to move them forward, and there's a bunch of us, not just me. And you have sort of the old guard that's trying to keep it the way they're familiar with. That's not unusual. And that's the struggle that's going on right now, I think. The old guard doesn't want change, but it's time for change.
Now, when you're out there talking to voters and you're trying to convince them that it's time for a change or it's time for the new guard to come, is there a common theme that you hear from people about, I like things the way they are, or I'm all for these new issues that are coming up, or I'm all for being more progressive? I mean, is it just a complete kind of mishmash of every type?
It's probably a mishmash for the most part, but what I would say and especially if you look at the numbers right now, like, the progressive, what people think of as progressive, so single payer healthcare, making sure kids can go to get a college degree without having to pay, all those kind of things, they poll really well, right? So the public actually does like them. So calling them progressive anymore might actually be a misnomer. They're actually mainstream, right? And so you have a group of mainstreamers, which we're now calling progressives, right? We have the historical Democrats who are no longer in the mainstream, and like, so they're not sure if they want to do Medicare for all. They're not sure if they want to do, educate kids for free. And then you have like the extreme progressives that might be beyond me even, right? Like people that they just want to fight. Like, I'm not just interested in fighting. Let's fight for something specific. So that's kind of how I see it. I think that The fights that I'm having right now are trying to move the old school to catch up with the mainstream.
Now, I need specifics here.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't.
Yeah, I won't wish you
anyway.
well. Yeah,
All
here
right,
we go.
So, because I think this is going to be the most important part of this show.
Okay,
and
great.
My favorite part.
Yeah.
I need to hear at least one, preferably two.
Yeah.
Crazy stories of voter encounters, something that happened at the polls, something that when you were out campaigning, you're like, wow, this is the nuttiest thing that I've ever seen.
All right, yeah. So I got two good ones. It's not necessarily nutty. Some of them are just funny, right? So I'm knocking on doors or whatever, and all of a sudden, like across the way, I hear this woman. She's yelling at me, "Mark, Mark," and I don't know. Yes. Can I help you? She's like, I have your picture on my refrigerator. I don't know this woman. She had just taken one of my things and put her picture on the refrigerator. It was really nice.
So this was not a picture she took of you, like while she was peering into the living room, or anything?
No,
this is
hopefully not. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure where that was going. It's a different show. If you okay. All right.
Yeah. So that was it was really kind. We had never. I don't think we had met each other. But she knew who I was, and that was just kind of funny, right? Like, and I wasn't sure where it was going. Then another story was I was out sort of in rural Lehigh County, and I'm in a very Republican district, and things are pretty far apart from each other. So like I said, I'm just going to go to every house, because a lot of times what you do is you go to the houses that you think are going to vote for you.
The super voters.
The super voters,
Right.
Definitely the Democrats, right? You're not going to Republican houses specifically. So I'm like, I'm just going to go to every house. It's primarily Republicans, whatever. So I'm like, well, what do we want to talk about? Well, let's talk about guns. So when I knock on the doors, I'm just talking about guns right away. Right?
It's a dangerous topic to be out in rural America having that conversation.
Absolutely. And I was like, this is the first way I'll do it. So I'm knocking on doors, and people know, I tell them I'm a Democrat right away. And we actually had some really good conversations about guns. Like most people did not want guns in schools, right? Like most people don't want abusive spouses to have guns, right?
Sure.
So we got there. But obviously it was going around the neighborhood that I was there. So I get to this one house, and this guy, I knock on the door, and the guy comes out with his shotgun over his shoulder. So, like my mind's racing now, right? Like what's going on? And he's like, what do you want? So I had a bag of literature with me, and I open it up. I'm like, I'm here to take your gun.
Oh, God. I mean, you're lucky that you're sitting here right now and have this conversation.
That's it. So this guy, he busted up laughing. Because what I had realized was that somebody had called him to let him know, and he was giving me a hard time.
Right.
And then we had a great conversation. I doubt he voted for me, but it was a really good conversation. I enjoyed it, And so that was probably one of the more crazy things that had happened.
Do you ever get, and I say this from experience because I worked for a judge when I first graduated law school, and he was telling me stories about when he ran for office. And he said the same three questions he got from almost every voter was, what's your position on God, guns, and gay marriage?
Yeah.
And he would say, I'm running for county judge. I don't have a say in any of those things. They don't matter at all in this election. But the voters didn't care. They wanted to know. You may never vote on it. You may never make a decision on any of those things, but I need to know where you stand on it.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Still, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
And those same three issues or other things?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, less on the God so much today, although some people will ask you about it, but the other ones, absolutely. Yeah. And it'll be like a random question. You'll be like, because when I was running for South Whitehall, talk about having no, I didn't do that at all. They still wanted to know. Or they want you to know, and they always want to know some current issue that happened in the news yesterday. What do you think of this? So you got to make sure you're up on the news, right, all the time.
Right. That's a good point. Or whatever Fox News is saying.
Right, exactly.
Whether it's actual news or not.
Exactly, exactly. I will, speaking of Fox News, probably not a question that you had, but I want to mention this. One of the things that I really believe is that we are divided because of the news, right? So there are some people that truly believe that Fox News is telling the truth, and Democrats don't believe that, right? And then there are people on the right that are saying MSNBC is lying, right? Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, they're lying. And I understand their point, actually. I don't necessarily think they're lying. I think you can understand. But so we have to fix that because we are not coming from the same point of reality. And
Alternative facts.
Alternative facts, yeah.
Right.
So how do we do something like that without impinging on the First Amendment right? And I don't know. But I've been researching this because it's interesting to me. So like one of the things that we do now on TV is we have a rating system very much like we have a rating system on the movies, right? PG, whatever. They do that now, and a lot of times it was originally developed for cable TV, right? So like if you didn't want your kids watching something, you could plug in, don't show anything that's under PG-13 or whatever. So that's still happening electronically. Sometimes you can see it at the front of shows. Anyway, that's being done with no legislation. Like there's no legislation behind that. We are actually just doing that. Like I don't know exactly if it's the movie theaters that do it or who specifically is in charge. But if we can do that, if we can label things, what I'd like to do is like see news labeled. This is an opinion piece, just like you see in your newspaper. This is reporting, just like you understand in your newspaper. And see if they're willing to do that, without any legislation. Like just willing to do it. So that Joy Reid would have something that said an opinion. It's an opinion show. Rachel Maddow would have something that said it's an opinion show. Tucker Carlson would have something saying it's an opinion show. Would that have enough of an impact? I don't know, but I think we need to take steps forward in terms of trying to make sure we're all on the same news. Anyway.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Mark Pinsley, thank you so much
Thank you,
Mark
appreciate
for coming and sharing some time with us. Thank you to Bell Hall and Jeremiah for hosting us today, letting us take over their bar. Mark, before we go, what would you like to promote? You could do whatever you want here, okay? Charity, softball game that you have coming up, whatever you want.
Oh, whatever I want. Interesting. Actually, I would say, one of the things I like to give to is either your church or synagogue, because they use the money right away and right for the local community. And I'm big on libraries too. So any of those three would be really good. I would appreciate it.
And Mark also wants you to vote for him when he's running for office this year.
State
for
Senate. Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have. Again, thank you to Bell Hall and Jeremiah. Thank you to Mark Pinsley. Stay safe, don't drink and drive, and always tip your bartender.
Thanks.